You know how the story originally broke? The Packers podcaster named Big B.
Shut up, Big B.
Jamal Williams is inside the 30, out in front, a Green Bay touchdown.
Jamal Williams is the GOAT, the GOAT. That's all you need to know.
Good, let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans.
Welcome back into the Underage Packers podcast. This is episode 142. This week on hand, the Packers have the New Orleans Saints. Both teams come into this game looking to set the precedent for the rest of their season. Packers 1-1, New Orleans 2-0. Joining me to preview this game is my co-host Big B, who will be at the game this Sunday. Big B, how are we feeling for your first Packers game of the year, first Lambeau game of the year?
Oh boy, we are so freaking excited to finally be back in the bowl of Lambeau Field, cheering on my Green Bay Packers and standing up the entire game.
Yeah.
And people behind me very frustrated that I'm standing the entire game because this is my first game of the year. It's Jordan Love's first Lambeau game, and let's go, baby. Yeah.
Now, I can't recall, were you at that Week 18 game against Detroit last year? Or when was the last time you were at Lambeau? Okay, you were at that game. So hopefully it goes better than last time. But, I mean, hopefully the only thing similar to that game is the fact that Jamal Williams will be on the other team's sideline. Now, Jamal, of course, does have a hamstring injury. So he will be, unfortunately, out for this week. But I would assume that he's going to be traveling with the team, and we get to say hi to his old Packers teammates, at least the few ones that were around when he was still there. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people on the roster still from his time, but he'll get to say hi to his old buddies and everything, and hopefully he'll see Big B as well.
Yes, hopefully. And he won't hurt me again like he did in Week 18, and I have to cry walking out of the stadium for a first time.
I will say though, I wish, it just sucks that one of the greatest moments of Jamal's career, and probably one of the greatest post-game interviews I've ever watched, was with Jamal after he beat us last week or last year. Because I mean that interview is just so amazing. I mean, he has tears in his eyes talking about his family and everything, and then the next thing you know, he's talking about something with anime. Perfectly captures how complex Jamal Williams is.
Yes, I will admit that game sucked to be at because Packer reasons, but the Jamal fandom inside of me was so happy I was there to watch him break Barry Sanders' record.
That's right.
Watch probably Jamal's best game of his career, pretty much. I mean,
yeah,
he's got better stat lines, but best game of his career. Because he broke the record and he beat the Packers and knocked us out of the playoffs. Now I'm gonna go cry, but
yeah. So that's enough Jamal Williams talk, and hopefully we get some good content from him pregame.
Yes, he's the GOAT.
GOAT. Don't let you forget it.
Yes, that is true.
Now this is the second pack. The Packers will be kicking off at 12 o'clock again. So welcome to the non-Aaron Rodgers era. Hopefully this noon o'clock kickoffs will be a short-lived thing, though. Packers come into this game as 2-point favorites. And last week, interestingly enough, they were 1-point favorites and then end up losing by 1 point. So Vegas always seems to know for sure. We're gonna start off first by recapping everything going on in the week of the Packers, talking a little bit about their performance against Atlanta. And then we will move on to the New Orleans Saints and the interesting stuff they got going on over there. First with the Packers, though, let's start off with talking about the offensive line, because this was an interesting thing to watch. From 10 o'clock in the morning when we found out that David Bakhtiari would not be playing, all the way into their performance in the game. Just an interesting thing to focus on. We found out at 10:30 when the inactives list came out for Packers vs. Falcons that David Bakhtiari would not be playing, and that led to a frenzy on Packers Twitter of why is David Bakhtiari not playing? And we knew the context that he has been dealing with this knee injury, but the reason that Big B is trying to hide right now is because he went along with the narrative that a lot of people on Packers Twitter wanted to take and run with, that David Bakhtiari was protesting playing on turf fields. He has been outspoken about his how much he is not a fan of turf fields, how he thinks it is unsafe, and how he thinks the NFL should invest in getting all natural grass fields for all of their stadiums. And I perfectly agree on all of those points. But as it turns out, that idea that he was protesting was not the case. He had his knee flare up, and Matt LaFleur was not happy about this narrative that people decided to run with after the game. And neither was David Bakhtiari, obviously, this week. And I'm going to play the clip from David where he kind of calls out people for just assuming this was the case.
If I wasn't going to play on turf, I'd probably make more of a ruckus. My brother loves drama.
For those of you unaware, David's brother Eric posted on Twitter after David was announced to be inactive for the game against Atlanta. Eric posted on Twitter a meme basically stating, the more you mess around, the more you're going to find out. And most people believe this was a reference to the NFL resisting Bakhtiari and a lot of other players' urges to switch to all turf fields. So, with that being said, let's return to David talking.
And he told me he was going to do it. I'm like, go right ahead, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care what you do. It's your social media. And no, that was not the reason at all. I would, if it was going to be, it'd be something. We'd definitely be something different. But no, I mean, I clearly have an injury I've been dealing with, and I think that a lot of just journalism. I think anyone here that did run with the story, Bob, I don't know if you did or didn't.
Did not.
Well, anyone who did should definitely make sure to right wrongs, because if you don't, then is that really journalism? If it's only just a hot topic or the lowest hanging fruit.
So there's that, not happy. And, there was people in the replies to that video that were mad at how David reacted to this. Folks, do you understand? I'm not saying you accused him of being a mass murderer, but you did accuse him of quitting on his team because he didn't like turf fields. I think he has every right to respond in the way that he did.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And we learned our lesson not to assume things that we don't have enough information about.
All right. But to be fair, though, before the game, I was very reasonable with all this. But immediately when the Packers started to suck is when I get in my feelings.
Well,
and then when the Packers lose, I get even more in my feelings and say stuff I 100% don't mean. Thank you.
Sure. I think there needs to be a flag that you can put on your tweets that's this is following a Packers loss at a very emotional moment for a lot of people, including Big B.
Yes. Yeah. I get I'm very emotional,
Yeah.
in my tweets after Packers losses, because I'm a dedicated fan,
Sure.
I take this stuff seriously, this is pretty much my life, so you know how things work here.
We can move forward though, and hopefully not assume things about players' injuries. And I'm not talking about specifically you, Big B, even though you were a part of this group. But
hey, you can call me out. I don't care.
Okay.
Hey, I've heard everything under the sun on Twitter, so
Yeah.
I can pretty much take any insult that you throw at me.
Good to know. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully this is a good learning moment for the Packers fan base. Okay, that's Bakhtiari. We are unsure if he's going to be able to play for this weekend against New Orleans. Did not practice on Thursday, at least. So there's that.
Yeah.
Also, another injury for the Packers offensive line. You had Elton Jenkins going down in that Falcons game, tearing his MCL, or at least injuring it. I can't remember exactly what he did to it. But he is going to be out for a few weeks now. I haven't seen any solid estimations on it, but from what I've seen, I guess my best guess would be 3 to 6 weeks for Elton. Could place him on IR, or they obviously have better information than us on the severity of it. So just unfortunate to lose your whole left side of the offensive line within
Yeah.
2 hours.
It's all AJ Dillon's fault. We know this.
Whoa.
He just falls. He's like he just tumbles. He just like tumbles, and unfortunately, Elton Jenkins was in the path of Mr. Tumbler.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because this is
Yes.
another good time to talk about the dangers of groupthink on Twitter. Because while I fully agree that AJ Dillon is disappointed in the fact that he is not the bowling ball that he used to be, like watching the film, and pretty much anybody will tell you this, that is not hiding behind a unanimous account or not an anonymous account, is that like the Packers offensive line did not do anything good in the run blocking department on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so let's give AJ Dillon some time. I know I was grilling him last week too, but let's give it some time before we make any sweeping declarations on it.
Yeah, and he also was a part of my wrath after the game on Twitter, but you get to a point where you get very frustrated that a player is only good for like the last 2 to 3 months. Like he's absolutely unusable in the first 2 months of the season. But the offensive line was absolutely garbage. But it's still true that he is just not as good in the warmer months.
That's
yeah.
I can live with that take.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So back to the offensive line though. Last week, the Packers ran out Rasheed Walker out left tackle, and then Royce Newman out left guard. And speaking,
why
who would you rather have had the Packers thrown out there at left guard? And your
grandma, for crying out loud. I don't care anybody but Royce Newman.
Okay,
how my dead dog can be thrown out there, and I would trust her more than Royce Newman. Okay, jeez.
But like I don't disagree with you that Royce Newman is not a great NFL player.
Yeah, because he isn't.
But to a certain extent, like their interior of the offensive line depth is Zach Tom, who is playing at right tackle. Like I can't tell you, like I get being frustrated with Royce Newman, but I do think he was their best option on Sunday. And he did fine against Atlanta. He did fine.
It pains me to say, but you are right. You are right.
Yeah. And I think he did better than Josh Myers, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's the offensive line, and I'm expecting for that, unless David is ready to go on Sunday, I'm expecting Rasheed and Royce to be started on that left side again. Because, I just like left guard was pretty much the worst position to have an injury at for the Packers. That is just like the one position where they do not have a lot of depth. So that was
okay. Here we go. Okay. Let me say something positive about Royce Newman, which is very rare because I absolutely hate that man with every being in my body.
Hold on. I want to take a time out. Like you can, I hate the way he plays, but you do not know Royce Newman one bit.
I bet he is a great guy. Left guard is his best position on the offensive line. It's his best position. Let's just keep him there. Don't move him anywhere else because that's where things get ugly.
Okay. I am loving your I don't know if I'm loving, but I'm noticing your appreciation for the hyperbole tonight. Okay. Maybe we should move on from the offensive line and talk about another thing horrible about the Packers. The defense, okay? Just a bad performance all across the board for the defense. Joe Barry had some terrible management. But then also it is on the players a little bit. You had Quay Walker dropping an interception, Jair Alexander dropping a pick six. If they get either of those, the Packers probably win that game.
Jair's was a whole house call. Like that.
Yeah.
That was a pick six, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And they just could not stop Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson at all. Um, Joe Barry today during his press conference said something like, bottom line is on run defense, we got to be better. Hey, Joe, I think I have, like, I don't know a lot, but one suggestion to solve that is maybe don't play Carl Brooks and Kobe Wooden as much as you did. Two great players with pass rushing, but are smaller size for interior defensive linemen who maybe should not be in there when Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier are getting the ball over and over again. Their quarterback is Desmond Ridder. Play call like it is.
Like, yeah. You know, like our defensive line is mainly all pass rushers, which is going to be misery this entire year because we
Bring
will
back Tyler Lancaster.
Yes, bring back Tyler Lancaster. But like we're gonna be terrible in the run defense department this entire year, based on like everybody in that room being pass rushers, and I'm going to beat my head against the wall.
Whoa, okay.
Bottom with that.
Well, okay. I'm not going to make that sweeping declaration yet because I still think maybe I am like blindly falling for this trap again, but they could figure out. We're 2 weeks into the season. All right, let's
Oh
not make this overreact.
We know this already. We're not gonna figure it out. We're gonna be disgusting probably until like the last 5 weeks of the year. We'll figure things out, and it'll be too late to figure things out. We should have figured these out like years ago.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's going to be figured out, but
it's not going to be figured out. You got to learn these things. Joe Barry has no confidence. I have no confidence, Joe.
Apparently, well, Joe Barry apparently doesn't have any confidence in his players, considering the fact that he constantly played light boxes and his cornerbacks off the line. And yeah. And speaking of that,
Jair is manning up on like wide receiver ones, but he still got coached. Like it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Sure. Okay.
I want him off my team. I want him off.
Oh, okay.
Not Jair, Joe Barry.
All of it, it's week 2 is all I'll say.
It's week 2, but I don't care.
Okay. All right. One last thing about the Packers before we talk about this interesting Saints team is the fact that I really do think this is going to be a pivotal moment for the team. They're coming into this game 1-1, virtually a clean slate. All right. Season can go either way at this point, obviously. And, you know, they play Detroit on a short week coming up on Thursday. Very good team. I think the Packers match up well with them, though. But all I'm saying is going into that Detroit game on a Thursday, going into that game 1-2 is a much different outlook than going into that game 2-1. All right. This is a pretty important game for the Packers early on in the season. Really gonna, establish how the rest of their season goes, I think. All right, on to the New Orleans Saints, who are they're looking 2-0. I was gonna say they're looking good at 2-0, but I don't know if I'd say they're looking good. I can confirm though that their record is currently 2-0.
Yeah.
So some things about them. Their quarterback is Derek Carr, obviously. They acquired him this offseason. And if you watched their game this past Monday against Carolina, Derek Carr does not look all that great. 21 for 36 on the year, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 80.2. And just looking at their offense, like, I don't know how they scored 20 points against Carolina last weekend. I don't know how it happened. It is a mystery because their leading rusher is Taysom Hill, Packers legend, of course, but he's still Taysom Hill. So that's that. Jamal Williams is hurt. He was pretty much the running back 1. Behind Jamal, they have a fellow by the name Tony Jones Jr., who's in his 3rd year. This man was on the Broncos practice squad last year. 13 carries for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns on the year. Their receiving core It's not all that great. They have Chris Olave, who is very good. And then they have like Michael Thomas, who like I feel like he's played 2 games in the last 5 years. So I don't know where their offensive scoring is going to come from, to be honest with you. Also, their offensive line is yikes. Worse than a Packers line even without David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins. They are currently the fifth worst offensive line in the league for pass win rate. So Kenny Clark, you ready? You ready? Yeah, I do think he's going to eat, as Big V is motioning right now. On defense, though, they are solid. They have quite a few veterans. They have Mario Davis. They have Cameron Jordan still, longtime New Orleans Saints. And then, of course, they do have Marshawn Lattimore, who, if the Packers do not have Christian Watson on Sunday for the third week in a row, it will get interesting on what happens there in the receiving game. They also have Tyrann Mathieu at safety. And then, look, I mean, when you think about the Saints defense, who are if you had to name 2 of the most challenging players to go up against, who would you say?
Like, what do you mean?
Who are you most worried about on the Saints defense?
Okay, that's what I thought. Probably Cam Jordan and Marshawn Lattimore, because why not?
Wrong answer.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yeah, you kind of got the positions right, at least for Marshawn. Okay, it's Isaac Gautam and Ty Summers.
Oh, of course, I forgot about them.
Yeah, I mean, how could you?
Yeah.
2 of the greatest players to ever suit up in the green and gold. They're looking for revenge on Sunday, so
yeah,
we'll have to look out for them.
Honestly, I think we lost solely based on that information. Like, we are already starting like at a 52-point deflect in this game. Like, it'll be 52-0 right when it kicks off. Like that's how serious Ty Summers and Isaac Gautam are going to take this game.
You might be right. So that's all you need to know about the Saints, really. Offense, not great. Jamal Williams hurt. Not a lot of offensive weapons beside Chris Olave. Offensive line, really bad. Defense, question mark. Veterans, good. Okay. That's the New Orleans Saints. Let's talk about the keys to the game here. For me, it's just going to be creating any explosiveness on offense. If we don't have Aaron Jones, if we don't have Christian Watson, some other guys are going to have to step up, just like they did last week. Jaden Reed had a great game last week. Luke Musgrave had some big moments. So they're just going to have to step it up, going up against a tough secondary this week. So going to be difficult. But that if they get that done, I am pretty confident that they can outscore the Saints. Big B, what do you have?
All right, this is very simple. It's very, very simple task in my opinion, but let's be productive on defense. Like, do anything positive on the defensive side of the football, and I think we're golden. Like, the Saints offense is so terrible. Like just do one thing positive and I'm sure we'll be fine. It's that simple.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Okay.
But it's Joe Barry's defense, so who knows what's going to happen this game.
Okay, that's fair. All right, now on to our biggest question. For me, it is the offensive line. Are they going to look like they did last week against Atlanta, which is solid in the passing game, not great in the run game, or are they going to take a step back? Is the fact that the glue is cracking, is that going to get to them this week? Big B, your concern is pretty much similar to your T here. What do you got?
Yeah, my concern is Joe Barry. Like, if Joe Barry, somehow blows this game once again for the Packers, I am going to jump off from the second story of Lambeau Field and fall to my death because that's my concern, because I don't want that to happen. Like, I want to see the rest of Jordan Love's career. But if Joe Barry somehow manages to blow this game for a second week in a row, I will jump.
Okay. All right, finally, who is having a big day? For me, I gotta say Devontae Wyatt. We talked earlier about Kenny Clark potentially eating, but I mean Devontae Wyatt. I got a good feeling this will be a breakout game for him, even though he had some pretty good games in the first 2 weeks. I think Devontae Wyatt is going to get the world talking this weekend when he goes for multiple sacks on Derek Carr. Devontae is just so fast. I think he is going to track down Derek Carr and make that old man fear for his life. Big B, who do you got having a big game for Green Bay?
All right. Well, first I'm gonna call you out here for putting two E's at the end of Devontae's name. Just calling you out here on
Okay.
that because
Okay.
that's like unacceptable. That
Sure.
is casual level of a mistake.
That is true.
So
That's fair.
just calling you out here. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Having a big day is Romeo Dobbs. You know, he didn't have a very like stat wise a very good game versus the Falcons. I expect Romeo to bounce back if only Christian Watson is not playing. Romeo will have a big day. Probably two tutties again. I will expect two tutties from Romeo Dobbs if Christian Watson does not play. But hey, Jaden Reed's balling out all of a sudden,
Yep.
so maybe he'll steal some of those away. But I expect at least one touchdown, at least.
Sure.
Romeo's gonna have a big day. I'm booking it now.
All right, then that's where we will end this one off. Big B will be in the stands to watch this performance against the Saints. So hopefully they can get you a win on their season.
They
here.
better.
Yep. We appreciate you tuning into this episode of the Underage Packers. Maybe early next week we'll have a recap of the Saints game, but it's going to be busy schedules for us this weekend, obviously, but we'll see what happens. No matter what, though, we will be back next week to preview the Detroit Lions. We'll be back probably on Wednesday. We'll have an episode out with potentially a very, very exciting special guest that you will not want to miss.
Oh, I'm so excited. If this happens, this will be the best episode in the UPP history. Like, this is the best episode if this happens. Like, I am so freaking excited for this.
I mean, he's no Rob Demoski or Rudy Ford, but
that is true. That is true. I think it's up there, though. It's up there.
He's up there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But we will talk to you guys later. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Pack, go.